This show is a Phonic media production.
So it is day 2 of Zebu Live. Getting to meet some Web3 people right in the face, in the flesh. It's lovely it is when you see all these people that you normally only meet online. Getting to meet builders and creators and people who are making cool stuff happen in the world of Web3. And I'm joined by one such incredible person who's building stuff in Web3, in the real world. Making it crossover. Is it metaverse? Is it real life? Is it clay? Is it digital? We just don't know. She does it all. It's Lydia Smith. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's so good to be here.
Very welcome. Now there's lots of cool stands here. Well, there's some cool stands here. Yours is the most beautiful stuff that people can come and see. There's been lots of people hanging around and watching your work. So explain, what have you been doing for the last 2 days?
Last 2 days. Thank you very much. I've been live sculpting in clay.
Sculpting.
Yeah, live sculpting. So I brought all my studio equipment with me. I've got some of my sculptures on plinths. So all my work is cast in plaster, but I'm currently sculpting in clay. I'll scan that afterwards with my special sensor, and that'll get warped and distorted into a brand new NFT artwork.
So okay, this is really interesting. How did you get involved in this space? Give us the backstory of your history and heritage you've got you had an interesting day job and then
I do,
before the sculpture stuff.
Yeah. So I used to work primarily in the film industry, and I've worked on some great productions such as Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Doctor Strange, Eternals.
Oh, you've done some proper cool stuff.
Yeah, some proper cool stuff. It's been amazing. Like it's honestly, it's such a great job. I love it. It's fantastic. And I've also represented Great Britain in international snow and ice carving championships in Switzerland
What?
and China. Yeah.
What? You didn't tell me that. We've been friends for like
global.
a full 10 minutes and you haven't told me this. Snow sculpting.
Yeah,
Oh,
snow
okay.
and ice.
Snow and ice.
Yeah.
So if I go to like a fancy bar and there's like a swan and the drink is coming down the swan and I put my drink at the bottom to get it, you're who's done it?
Potentially.
Wow.
I know I've worked for companies that do that, but the sculpting that I was doing was 3 meter by 3 meter blocks of snow and ice that you carve with a chainsaw and hand tools in 3 days.
This is so cool.
With like 10 to 20 other countries all competing globally.
So you're an international ice sculpting champion.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your list of accolades just gets better and better. So how did you end up in this, like in the world of sculpting full stop?
Full stop. So I've always been an artist. It's just in my blood. And
Family? Are they
well,
art?
my grandpa.
Okay.
He was a painter and a poet, like gardener, musician. My mum also does like creative, but I'm the first one in the family to actually choose it as a career.
Go pro.
Go pro. Yeah, and I studied at a university. I was at the University of Arts London, did it doing technical arts and special effects, which was prop making, molding and casting, figurative sculpting, puppet making, a little bit of green screen.
Oh, wow.
And I just did loads of work experience.
Yeah.
I hustled my way, like trying to do uni work and work at these different companies, which landed me a job at a company called Pinewood Creative, which was on site at Pinewood.
I worked there as a kid.
Did
I was
you?
a waiter at Pinewood Film Studios. Yes, I was, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I got into film. And I was working at Pinewood Creative and realised that I wanted to work on big movies. I wanted to sculpt more because I was doing a bit of fiberglassing, a bit of woodwork. So I got my portfolio together and would sneak out of my workshop, tea breaks and lunch breaks, and like sneak into the art departments of the different movies because you had to have a specific code to get in. And I just knocked on the art director's door, had no idea of the politics at the time, and just said, "Hi, I'm Lydia Smith, I'm a sculptor, can I have 5 minutes of your time?" And luckily he said yes.
Amazing.
He said yes and showed him my work. He was impressed and then proceeded to set up other meetings with all the other art departments on site at the time. Gets better. And I make friends with the security guard because he stopped me one day.
Always make friends with security and reception people.
That's the secret,
Yeah.
everyone. So he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I've seen you for the last couple of weeks running around. What's going on?" And I thought I was in trouble. Told him what I was doing, and he was like, "You know what? I'm going to give you the code names of all the other films that are at the other studios. you do with what you will. You didn't get them from me. And I was like, thank you very much.
Wow.
So I would then call up the switchboard at like Warner Brothers and Longcross and the other studios and say, hi, it's Lydia Smith calling for the production of Microphone. Can you patch me through to the art department? And because I knew the code name, they just did. So as soon as I got through, I said, hi, my name's Lydia, I'm a sculptor. I'd love to set up a meeting. Yeah, the hustle is real. So I'd love to set up a meeting with you, show you my work. Everybody said yes. And then nothing happened for like 6 months, feeling a little bit defeated. And then one day an email landed in my inbox saying, hey, Lydia, we've got some sculpting work for you starting on Tomb Raider on Monday. Are you free? And I was like, yeah, I am.
Oh my God.
And then that's like 6 years later, we're still working in the film industry.
It's such, I think, such an important message, that willingness to put yourself outside of your comfort zone. And given the conversation that you and I had yesterday about you could be quite introverted and like the live events are a bit overwhelming, it's a bit overbearing, and people watching you do your work, when it's like a creative internal process, to hear that person is also the hustler who sneaked the code names off security and just cold called people and pitched up. It's unreal.
I'm a ravage pitcher, like it's just all over the place. But I don't know where these different, they're all me, but it's just different energy comes out at different times.
Okay.
I am quite quiet and reserved, believe it or not.
It's like hustler Lydia, there's arty Lydia, there's quiet Lydia.
There's quiet Lydia, there's
sneaky Lydia, by the sound of it.
don't get in the way of me getting where I want to go.
Clearly not. So then how did you make the transition into, obviously we're here at Zebu Live, how do you make the transition from sculpting for movies and films? Because that is probably, for all intents and purposes, for a lot of people, like that's the top echelon of where they want to get to. But then you see Web3 coming along, you see what's happening in the art space.
Yeah.
Did you get it early doors? Did you see it straight away of what you could transition? And also, how do you, follow, terrible question because I'm asking you 17 questions at the same time. How did you think that you'd be able to take real world art into a digital sphere?
So many good questions. So let's start at the beginning. I think everything kind of changed for me during the pandemic, which it did for a lot of people. I was still very fortunate to be working on a film at the time. We only shut down for 3 months and then we were back on set. But it just really got me thinking that for the last 6 years, I'd just been moving from like film studio to film studio, stage to stage. And when you're in these stages, there's not many windows, like it's cold, like it's very magical, but also like very intense at the same time. And I was like, do I want to spend my life inside stages? And the answer was no. I was like, okay, I've only ever wanted to be an artist. What do I do? So I left the film industry temporarily, left London, and went traveling by myself in my Fiat 500 around Europe, from art residency to art residency. And just before I left, I started experimenting with an Xbox One sensor, which was inspired by a friend of mine, James Rogers, who's an incredible artist himself. He uses a sensor in his work sometimes as well. So I bought one, had a little play with it. And because I wanted to move away from figurative work, I was a very, very figurative artist, and find my voice within my artwork, I just did a quick, set a timer for 30 minutes, did a quick clay sketch, thought it was absolutely horrific, like a disaster. Then I thought, well, this is just an experiment, just scan it and have a play. Because on one of the films I was on, they'd started implementing 3D printing in polystyrene. So we would normally carve the sculptures, but now they were making them small scale, scanning them and getting them milled out in polystyrene. So we still had a job, but the main build was taken away from us.
Right.
So I was like, this technology is coming. I want to be an artist. So I think now's probably a good time to try experimenting with both. So I scanned the initial clay sketch and thought it would be, like it said on the box, that it would capture the object accurately. It didn't do that at all. It completely warped it into something completely brand new. So again, I thought I'd failed again. And after a few tears, I realized this is technology's interpretation of my artwork. And then the sculpture that I'm talking about is now titled An Artifact of Ambiguous Character. And it's got this floating head that looks like a stone with a hole in. So I Googled stone with a hole in, and this ancient Indian fire starting stone that was used by Native Americans came up, and it looks exactly like what the scanner picked up on my sculpture. And I was like, what is this technology trying to communicate with us to look back at our ancient heritage and ancient past and maybe what we could learn from our ancestors in this technical age now? So had this digital sculpture, didn't really know what to do with it. And then on this amazing podcast called Talk Art, somebody was talking about NFTs. And I was like, wait, so an NFT, I can sell my digital artwork. So now this point in the process has become an artwork in its own right, and just started learning all about it, got completely absorbed and like the support the blockchain can give to artists. And that's how the development of my current process evolved.
Wow, you're so multi-level. I'm so one-dimensional. When you're like, what is it trying to communicate with me? We're looking back and our ancestors are coming through. I'm just like, I'd just be like, oh, the scanner don't work, I throw it in the bin. I love people like you and the way that you see stuff. So when you saw NFTs, you got sort of infectious about what it could potentially do. Did you see that actually because I think in a lot of instances, you either have to be, I guess it's like this in a lot of industries, you have to either be like a big name and someone else almost has to dictate you become this big name. It has to be like a studio or a gallery or an art influencer who goes, oh, this person's work is actually incredible and worthy of our accolade. Whereas now this gets rid of the middlemen, the middle people entirely, and puts the power in the hands of the artist. As an artist through and through, is that super exciting? It's
unbelievably exciting because us emerging artists or artists that aren't represented by galleries yet, you put in so much work, and rightly so, the people that you work with take commission for helping you sell the work. But it's not, most artists don't know about the legal implications around resale royalties. Like, you're entitled to get a percentage of your work that sells on a secondary market in the traditional art world, but that's really hard to keep track of if you're not working with a gallery. It means you have to keep tabs on your collectors the entire time, like wondering if they've sold it or not, and then asking them for your percentage of the resale rights, and it's just a bit messy. But we're
knocking on someone's door and like 6 years later, I noticed that you sold that thing. Could I have my cash now?
Exactly. Nobody wants to do that.
I imagine you could though, because you're sneaky Lydia. Yeah, excuse me.
I've been tracking you. But so blockchain technology just takes all of that confusion out of the picture by, if you buy one of my sculptures and you want to sell it 5, 10, 20 years later because it's gone up in value, you sell that on through blockchain technology. I automatically get my 10% resale rights. You're happy because you've made a profit. I'm happy because I'm still getting like validation and support through the original artwork that I created. And if you support me as an artist, which is one of the reasons you should buy art in the first place, you should be more than happy to give me that 10% of the profit that you've made off my work. So I think with traditional artists, it's hard. It's a lot of research to try and figure all this stuff out to get to that concept, because all they're seeing at the moment is a JPEG of a monkey. And it's alienating for some people, and it takes a lot. Like, I've been researching this for the last 2 years, and that's why I'm now able to speak publicly about it and like tell people about it, because I studied it like at home during the pandemic while I was away, and like all the hours that I put in, didn't know if I was ever going to get anything back from it. But I love it. I think it's really great. And the reason I incorporate it with my physical work is because all of my work is around human connection. And I think it's really important that we stay balanced and grounded within our physical and digital identities as we like move forward into the metaverse and AI copies of ourselves and all these different versions that we're able to have. And important to come to conferences like Zebu so we can meet people in public face to face and make friends and make business acquaintances. And that's what my artwork really represents. So it's really important that I have the physical and digital side of it.
Are you sort of combining physical and digital with everything? So if I buy a physical sculpture, presuming that I'm going to, but presuming I can even afford it now that you're big in the game after all your sneakiness. But if I buy the sculpture, do I get the NFT? Or if I get the NFT, do I get the sculpture? Are you combining physical and digital for everything?
So it's based on like what the client wants and which sculpture they like. So all of my physical sculptures, they are available to buy with fiat currency or cryptocurrency. If you're cryptoverse, then you can buy it in crypto, and we'll talk about that. But I don't want to alienate non-crypto people, so they're still able to buy it the traditional method. And all that means is your certificate of authenticity either comes on a piece of paper or it comes as an NFT. With the digital NFT sculptures that originated in the digital space from the scanning, they are normally just digital packages, but they're object files, so you can put them physically in the metaverse, display them at home on your screen, and also put them through hologram technology. But if the client really wants the physical version of that NFT sculpture, I'll then make that for them at an additional cost, and that'll be a one-of-one package. Yeah.
So they could get so there's obviously the physical version, you scan it, and they could, in theory, if they wanted to, buy the NFT. If someone just likes the NFT and wants to support the project, then the NFT can exist without the physical.
And it becomes, so every part of the process, so they all become separate individual artworks, even though they're in this ecosystem where they're all related to each other. My original clay sculpture, that's artwork one. The NFT that comes from it, because it's warped during the process of scanning, it looks completely different to the original piece. So that is a new piece all on its own. So that's sculpture too.
So let's say I'm a Lydia fan at this point, which I am, by the way. So I buy the sculpture, I get the NFT, which looks nothing like the sculpture. You can then, for an additional cost, make me the sculpture that looks like the NFT.
Yeah.
Jeez.
If that's what you want.
This is what blockchain was made for.
Exactly.
Come on now.
Or you don't have to buy the NFT you don't have to buy the NFT that was inspired by the original sculpture. They're all separate entities.
But I could if I wanted to.
So you could,
so I could earn version 1, 2, and 3.
And they're all related to each other. And then version 4, which I've just started to like incorporate, is paintings. Because during the digital processing of the sculptures, I collaborate with painters, and I wrap the painters' paintings around the digital sculptures. But in order to do that, I have to UV map the sculptures, which unwraps the digital sculpture and turns it into a 2D plane.
What?
And these 2D planes are really inspiring to me. So I've then turned those into paintings. So the sculpture that I'm sculpting at Zebu is actually inspired by a painting, which is a flat digital sculpture that used to be a sculpture.
Hang on, right, let's just, for those who are not following along, so today you're sculpting, the last couple of days you've been live sculpting a sculpture that's been inspired by a flat version of the digital render, effectively, of a previous sculpture.
Bingo.
From a painting of it?
Yeah.
Oh! Liberty flip.
I know, it's a lot to take in.
It's amazing.
It's this whole, I'm building like my own universe of geometry within physical and digital spaces.
It's so cool.
And the whole point of it is it's like digital to physical, 2D to 3D, finding the balance and like bringing it all back to human connection and being like, you can have both, just make sure you stay present in each version.
Do you know what I love about you, Lydia? Many things, but I think that you've got I hear a lot of people talk about art and it sounds very pretentious, frankly. You've got quite a complex arty thing that you're doing, but it's just you just deliver it so nicely. I'm like, I get that. I get that. I just need to get the sculpture, get the NFT, have the flat version, which is now a painting, which then becomes a sculpture.
And then
it makes complete sense.
You've got like Lydia universe in your home.
We all live in Lydia as well, exactly. Where can people go and find more information about the amazing work that you do?
I'm mainly on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Lydia Smith with a Y, artist, all one word. I'm also on Twitter, but I'm more vocal on Instagram, and that's Lydia Smith Art. And then my website is www.lydiasmith.gallery.
Amazing. I think you're super talented. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I look forward to many more people finding out about your work. Oh, final question. Sorry.
Yes.
Final question. What do you think about burn projects? So what do you think about things where, like, especially like, was it Damien Hirst who did have the physical or the digital? What did you think about that?
I love it because
It made me feel so uncomfortable. I was like, oh, what would you do?
But it's more about that's more about human psychology.
Yeah.
And I really respect Damien Hirst. And he's got a lot of good ideas.
What would you have had, the physical or the digital?
The digital.
Would you? I'm surprised. Okay. Why?
That's an experiment. I think.
So you'd have dropped 50 grand for a digital version.
Yeah. I know that sounds crazy.
Okay.
But
I thought you could be a purist. I thought you could be like an anti.
No, because
he actually burnt it as well, didn't he?
I know. It was amazing in
Yeah.
the gallery. Yeah, I saw it was amazing. And
The whole thing as a spectacle of psychology was
that's
fascinating.
what I mean. That's why I found that project so fascinating. Yeah. And I think purely because I've looked at the project from a psychological experiment. That's why I keep the digital and not the physical, because I'm not thinking about it in terms of what I can make the most money off later to say that I own a Damien Hirst. It's more like this to me is a social experiment, and psychologically, I'm going to keep the digital and see what happens.
So you can't burn a sculpture in theory. So would you ever do a smash project, a Lydia Smith smash? So you either smash the screen which represents the NFT, or you smash the sculpture. Would you ever let
That's
somebody
a good idea.
sledgehammer your sculpture?
Maybe that's an exhibition idea.
That's cool, isn't it?
That's a good idea.
Can I come as the co-founder of this concept? Can I come?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, brilliant, amazing. Guys, go and check her out. She's incredible. Lydia Smith is all over Instagram and various different places, bringing Web3 and the physical world together in a lovely way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
This show is a Phonic media production.